Hi, it's Willow with C&J Nutrition, and I wanted to do a roundup of my first trimester must-haves. I've just finished my first trimester of pregnancy, and I kind of had some products that I depended on every single day. I had a lot of nausea and vomiting. I'm gonna try not to sort of like talk too much about that, and I might do another video on kind of like specifically what I did to help with those things, but you'll see with my first trimester must-haves that they're mostly geared towards kind of reducing nausea, reducing vomiting whenever possible. So I wanted to start with kind of like my food must-haves for the first 3 months, and then I also have some skincare must-haves, though that was definitely not my priority during a lot of this time. And then I have a couple apps that I've been using too, and a book. So the first couple must-haves that I have on food are ones that I used when I was just feeling really, really sick. And, you know, like I know as a dietitian, and I'm sure all of you know that protein is sort of like what you aim for when you're feeling nauseated during pregnancy, even though it's not what sounds the best to you, that it's what kind of helps reduce nausea. But there were points that I was just throwing up so much during the day that I just needed to get something down that I could keep down, and the old classic saltines happened to be one of them. And these were really nice because most mornings, my husband would make me a smoothie that I could drink like through a straw while I was still horizontal in bed, and that kind of helped. But there were some mornings that I couldn't even get that down. So keeping these by my bedside was imperative. And I liked this brand because they're organic. They used unbleached flour. The oils are a little bit healthier. So they're still white flour crackers, but they did the trick, and I felt a little bit better eating them because they had decent ingredients. Okay, the second one I love. This is Trader Joe's uncrystallized candied ginger. And so I love dessert, and I'm a big sweets person. During these first 3 months, I did not want anything to do with chocolate, which really broke my heart. And also sweets. I definitely gravitated towards salty flavors, sour and salty, as opposed to sweet, which included ginger candies, which everybody says, keep ginger candies around. They were just too sweet and not gingery enough. There were sometimes I just chewed on a piece of raw ginger. Those were some dark times, but the candied ginger from Trader Joe's is uncrystallized, so it doesn't have that packing of sugar around it. It's basically just a chunk of real ginger that is, that's candied but not crystallized. So you get a little bit of sweetness, but you really get that burn from the ginger, which I found, especially once I started feeling a little bit better and could go to the office again, the car ride to the office, those were great for just sort of getting me through. Another thing that I don't usually use, but definitely depended on a lot during this time, was a protein powder. And I actually depended on this specific one, which is an unsweetened, unflavored, that's hard to find, just a neutral, non-sweetened protein powder. So this one is from Amazing Grass. It's called their protein superfood. And the reason that I chose this one is because, well, for one thing, like I said, it's unsweetened, unflavored, but also it's got greens powder in it. And protein powder, greens powder, two things I don't usually use in my everyday life, but when you're having trouble keeping anything down, I was not eating, I wasn't eating my usual veggies with lunch and dinner. I wasn't getting my usual intake of really highly nutritious foods in. So I felt like this was a really great thing to add to smoothies in the morning. And I would just use any of the smoothies on our website, any of the smoothies in our cookbook, and added a scoop of this to it to give me a bit of a protein boost, and a little bit of the nutrients that you get from greens too. Another thing that I depended on quite a bit was coconut water. And I liked this brand specifically because some of the brands were really nutty tasting. They had a really rich flavor, which I typically in my everyday life love. During this time, when I was just really, really nauseated, did not love. And not to get too graphic, but the place I usually use this was at night. I would usually throw up quite a bit, and I would drink a whole one of these after that to rehydrate. One thing that this definitely like did was just stay down and make me feel really rehydrated afterwards, and hydration is just so key. If you're throwing up, you just want to make sure that you're keeping liquids down. And this was actually the one that has little chunks of coconut in it. And, you know, pathetically, it made me feel like I was able to eat a little bit more than I actually was. But I really liked the flavor of this one. And with ice, like everything cold, it tasted really good. Another thing, once I could kind of like start keeping a little bit more food down, was my usual favorite Pink Lady apples. I've always loved Pink Lady apples just because they're almost always like crisp and firm. The tart and sweet combination of them was just like totally hit the spot during this time when I kind of was nauseated, not really feeling like eating. And again, this was kind of like when I was able to start eating a little bit more. I would pair them with peanut butter to get a little bit more protein in. As I started feeling even better, I would pair them with like a piece of cheese to get some protein in, but that tartness again was just really, really nice. And then, okay, so I have this banana as a reminder. So in my smoothies, I usually like bananas, but have not really had a taste for bananas in smoothies. I wanted like a more tart smoothie. However, I have been using bananas as a way to make my own sort of like energy bars to take to the office. And strangely enough, my friend Kate had brought me some of these cookies to the office, and they were the only thing that kind of like kept me from getting nauseated during the day while I was seeing clients at the office. So they are so simple. She got the recipe from her friend, who is at Mrs. Casual on Instagram. She has an amazing Instagram. So this is her recipe. It's 2 really ripe bananas, 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, 1 cup of oats, and then you can stir in like chia seeds or coconut or chocolate chips or all of the above, and then you bake them. I'll put the full recipe in the description box. It's so easy, and they just come out as not overly sweet, cookie-shaped energy bars, and they were really great for when I was at the office and just needed to kind of like eat to keep the nausea at bay between clients. Okay, so now, one more food-related thing, which I actually kind of contemplated not putting in this video because it's our cookbook, but I really did use it, genuinely used this. And so that's our Healthy Happy Pregnancy cookbook, and it has a whole chapter on nausea. And the thing that we designed the chapter around, which came in really handy during this time, is that you might be craving carbohydrates when you're nauseated, but they're not what helps prevent the nausea or kind of keep your nausea at a level where you can actually semi-function in daily life. Protein is. So there's like a carrot soup in here that has broth and white beans pureed into it, so you don't feel like you're eating a lot of protein, but you are. There are just a lot of really nice things that feel a little bit more carby but actually have hidden protein, which were really, really helpful. There's also ice cubes that are really like sour lemon, spicy ginger that you can drop into club soda to make yourself like a really gingery ginger ale. Those were really helpful. So yeah, I mean, I used it. It's really nice to have these recipes so you can have friends or family make you stuff too, because, you know, if you're throwing up and you need to be lying down, you can't really be in the kitchen a lot. So it's nice to have recipes that people can use to bring to you too. Okay, so now on to skincare. Again, like, I was just in survival mode during this time, but I did notice that my skin, and I'm still sort of dealing with this, it just started flaking and peeling, and I think it has to be because I wasn't able to eat like I usually do. I wasn't able to drink water like I usually was. I was sort of just like getting by, and I think my skin really showed that. But like when I went to put sunscreen on or tinted moisturizer when I could finally go back to the office, it was a mess because, you know, trying to put that like tinted moisturizer over like flaking skin is not great. So one of my favorite skincare brands is Board and Batten, which is made by a woman in Florida who's just amazing, and her products are all natural. She uses, you know, like it's the type of products where like you look at the ingredients and you could eat every single thing in them. So this is her Begin Again, and I've always used this one as my exfoliator. You can mix it with honey and make it into a mask. It's an enzymatic exfoliator, which I really like, so it kind of like eats away those dead skin cells. So you can make this into a mask, or you can use it as sort of just like a scrub, because it's kind of powdery, in the shower too. So what I did is I made it into a mask with honey, left it on, and then in the shower I kind of like rubbed to get some of that dead skin off, and it's been really helpful. The other thing is that I usually have dry skin. That hasn't changed, but just with kind of like the exfoliating and the flaking skin, I just wanted something really soothing. And again, I usually use all natural skincare, but now that I'm pregnant, I'm just kind of a little bit more diligent about making sure that everything that I'm using is all natural. So I've been using this. It's Grateful Body Intensive Hydration Booster Moisture Monsoon. This is a company based in Nevada City, California. My brother actually got this for me. And it's just kind of like a serum made with oils. And it's been really great for just kind of like keeping everything moisturized. This is a room spray that I made, and I actually got this idea from my other friend Kate at the office, who had said that when she was pregnant, she had a spray that she used to spray her pillow with at night, and that just kind of like the scents were really soothing when she would go to bed. The first trimester, I was really sensitive to smell, and I know a lot of people get that way. When it came to like getting nauseated and throwing up, smells would trigger it, but it wasn't necessarily like food cooking. Food cooking actually smelled delicious to me. I just couldn't eat it. It was more like I would walk into a room and just like, if the smell hit me wrong, that was it. So like when I would go to bed at night, I would spray the room with this spray the pillow, and it just has like a really just like soothing, clean smell. And I made this by just filling a spray bottle with water, and then I added my favorite essential oils. So this one has like lemon oil, some patchouli, some ylang, just a kind of light combination of oils that kind of smelled really bright and clean and fresh to me. So then my space smelled that way. I took it to the office too, and would just kind of spray my office throughout the day to just sort of like keep the scent lifted and kind of keep my mood lifted. Okay, so let's see. I think that my only favorites left are apps. So let me get my phone out. One of the apps that I used was called Expectful, and it's I'll link this below too. It's a meditation app for pregnancy, and I just found that, you know, like, and it wasn't like a miracle that this all changed. You know, when you're throwing up every day, you kind of feel like a disconnect from your body, and you don't really have a chance to like think about the fact that you're like growing somebody and that it's just like this really special time. But the Expectful app did help me sort of like reconnect with my body, even though like to a certain extent, you feel like there's a weird dynamic between your body when you're nauseated all the time. Anyone who is experiencing this knows exactly what I'm talking about. But the Expectful app helped me feel on a daily basis like I was connected still. So even if I did it and then felt like towards the end of the day like a little bit bummed out, the next day I could reconnect. And it was just like a nice way to connect. There's also a really amazing meditation where they're just like, send your baby smiles, and it's just like stuck in my head, and I do that all the time. And it's a paid app. You can do a 14-day trial, and then it's like a monthly fee. I want to say it's like $9 a month, but I'll put that in the link below. The other app that I have been using is the Ovia pregnancy app. So Ovia has a fertility app that you can use to just kind of like track your period and all that stuff, but they have a pregnancy app too, and I like their pregnancy app because I was just talking to my friend Aletra about this actually. She uses this one too. Doesn't give you too much information. You don't feel overloaded when you look at the app. It's just solid information. It's not like super cutesy. It's also not like pages of stuff that feels overwhelming. It feels like the right amount of information that you want to know. And they have links to other things. You know, if you want to do future reading, you can kind of like do further reading that way. But overall, I would say I like it because it gives you what you need, doesn't overwhelm you, and is solid, dependable information. So those are the two apps that I've kind of been using the most. In general, I've been trying not to, you know, like Google too much or use too much outside information, and just sort of like listen to my body and do what feels right for me and kind of trust that in the process, because I feel like that's going to be good moving forward. Which leads me to my final must-haves of first trimester, which is friends, family, my midwives. Like my husband cooked for me, made me smoothies. My friends checked in with me like all day, every day via text messages and sent me like funny cat memes. It's amazing how much that like can help when you're feeling really terrible. And then also my midwives, who gave me like the best advice, which is just, you know, I was feeling like I wasn't getting enough food and I wasn't getting enough liquid, and I was really worried that I was, you know, like harming myself and losing weight, and that this was just awful. They were just like, you're doing okay, do the best that you can, like we're here for you, and also we're all rooting for you. And that just felt like really good to hear, and that kind of kept me going until I was able to eat a little bit more again, which felt really good too. So I think between food, skincare, books, apps, people, that's sort of like my first trimester in a nutshell. If you want to see a video where I go into more detail about like what I ate when I was throwing up a lot, what I ate kind of like in the beginning of the first trimester when I was just nauseated a lot, the end when I was nauseated and could go back to the office, wasn't throwing up so much, I can do a video with more detail on that. Just let me know. And then I'll put together a second trimester favorites too. I'm already compiling those. So that does it. I will see you in the next video. Bye.